Right guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about things you can do to make your business more valuable so that one day you can actually sell it and realize a bit of an exit payoff or fee, if you like, of actually building the business. Because for me, look, you're in business now and you're building a ship that pays you a wage, pays you a dividends, and provides you a lifestyle. But at some point, there is going to be the end of the business cycle that you're in. And what do you want to do? Do you want to get to the end of the cycle or get to a time where you want to get out of the business and you just shut the doors and all that hard work has gone to waste? Or do you want to build a business that's actually going to be valuable to someone? And this is the key, it's got to be valuable to someone else. It's no good thinking about how much work you've put in, how much time you've put in. It has to be value perceived by the person buying the business for a payoff to be actually worthwhile. What you think is redundant, and it's going to be these 9 key things I've got in this video that a buyer would look at, and I'm someone that's actively buying businesses today. I'm looking at buying more businesses, and it's things that I'm going to go through today that I look for in a company that make it interesting and make it something that you actually want to buy and purchase and be involved in because it's got these key things in place. So listen in because these are going to be very important. Now, number one, the business has to run without you. No one in their right mind is going to want to buy a business where they're basically buying your headaches and buying all of your problems. There has to be a team in place. There has to be more than just you going on. So the business has got to be to a decent size. There are employees in place, long-term employees, people that are happy, a team that is good, a team that works well together, and a team that someone could buy that company and the team will stay in place and continue to operate and run the business. No one buying a business wants to buy a job. The very reason why someone is buying a business and the position that I'm in is I want to buy an investment vehicle. I want to buy a business that I can add value to by tweaking things and refining things, by bringing in better customers, by increasing profitability and all sorts of things like that. I don't want to buy a headache. I don't want to buy a job. So the business has to run without you. So if it's currently running purely on you, you haven't really got anything that's worth any money to anyone. There is no value being built there. And this is the things you've got to look at, is that what it might cost you and it might hurt you to grow and develop and reinvest back into the business by developing a team and all the other things I'm going to go through today. There is a value there that you don't see. You're just looking purely at the cash flow from the business. But there's two sides. There is the cash flow of investing back in the business, but there's a long-term value that you are building that's going to make it valuable one day to someone else. So it has to run without you. And then number two, profitability. There has to be healthy profitability in the business. Number one, profit makes the world go round, but the more profit in the business, the more value there is in the company. Because in the construction industry, most of you watching this are going to come from that industry. That's where you follow me from. This industry, typically a good business that's ticked off most of these things I'm going to go through will achieve a valuation of 3 to 5 times the net profitability. The profit at the very bottom, when all costs are said and done, the net profit of the business, 3 to 5 times that net profitability is going to be the value. Now, if you haven't got these things in place or there's major problems in the business, it's going to be a lot less than that. It's going to be way, way less. But I'm setting you up for a reality where you could be, if you've got a business that makes £500,000 a year at the very bottom when everything's considered, 3 to 5 times that value is what you could be achieving as a business, which that could be the difference between you going to live somewhere abroad, retiring, getting out of the business and getting a bit of freedom at the very end and a lump sum of cash that you can then do other things with, so like maybe buy a property or something like that. So the more profitability you've got, the better you're going to be positioned because people are buying cash flow. In my eyes, in terms of buying a business or investing in a business, I'm looking at cash flow that business generates. If a business doesn't really make any cash, it's not really worth anything to me. It's not really worth anything to anyone else. So profitability in the business, so increasing the profit and the bottom line should always be the focus area for every business owner. Always increase the profitability. Number three, revenue. The revenue that your business does come into effect because a small business, you might have a business that does 100 grand a year that makes really good profit, makes a really good margin, makes a really good high level of profitability. But 100 grand, what's that worth to someone else? Nothing really. It's not really a business. No disrespect to anyone that's currently small when you're starting out, maybe listening to this, but to a buyer's mind, that's a very small business. Even £1 million a year business is still a small business. But a business that gets into the 5, 10, 20 million pound bracket, that's more exciting and more appealing because that can be bolted into someone else's existing business or another business that they own, and they can grow that way. And that's the way you want to look at it. Look in the buyer's mind. Like, who would actually buy a business doing £5 or £10 million a year? It's going to be a bigger business. And if you think there's a business out there that, let's say, it's doing 20 million a year and it wants to grow, it's going to be very easy for that business to buy a business doing 5 to 10 to grow, because in 1 year they go from 20 million to 25 to 30 million just by buying a business, by doing one transaction and then folding that all into their existing infrastructure, their existing team. That's an easier way of growth for a business at that scale. And that's going to be attractive to that type of buyer. And why is that relevant to you guys? Is because, well, look, a business of that size has got the cash to pay and buy a business that's 5 million or 10 million. Whereas if you're trying to sell a company to someone who hasn't got the money, it's going to be difficult. So you've got to be thinking, right, revenue has actually got a value to it. And it's both sides of the coin. You need the revenue, but you need the profitability as well. So growing a business to a decent size is what's going to allow you to sell it. Because if you've only got a small business, it's not going to be that attractive to someone else. Then number 4, customer concentration. And this is actually in the bracket of risk, because you can grow a business to, let's say, 5 million a year, but it could rely on 2 or 3 clients, which if one of those clients fell off the cliff or disappeared or refused to pay you or something happened, it happens in business. Companies go bankrupt. Things happen. People move positions. If you've got high customer concentration where you rely on 2 or 3 clients, that is going to be a massive risk and a warning flag to any potential buyer. So you don't want to build a business that relies purely on a couple of people. You want a good balance, a good book of customers and clientele. And a rule for this is that not one client is over 20% of your revenue. If you're under that, you're going to be pretty safe, and that's going to be more palatable to a buyer coming in. But if all your work is with one client, that's too risky. No one's going to want to buy that, because that client leaves. Once you're out of the business, you might take that client somewhere else and the business is done and it packs up and it folds. So your customer concentration is a very important metric. If you've got lots of customers, that's going to be very valuable to a buyer. Then number 5, predictable revenue or recurring, which is difficult in construction. But if you're in the service-based business, you might have recurring revenue set up by maintenance plans, contract plans, things like that. But predictable, clear revenue. What people would tend to do is you might have a really good year and you go, we've done massive amount of revenue, but that revenue might have come from one place, one freak off job, a £2 million job, or relative to the size you are, a £500,000 job. It's not predictable. People want to see history and track record of predictable or recurring revenue. That's got a value to it. If someone can clearly see and you can clearly demonstrate, right, we predictably win this many jobs a month, we win this type of work over and over again, we've built a system that is predictable, recurring, we can rely on it, that has got a value to it. Whereas if you have months that are quiet, you have peaks and troughs, you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. That's not very exciting to a buyer, and it's risky to a buyer. You got to think again. Someone looking to buy a business, they're not looking for stupid risk. They're looking for something that's a safe vehicle they can put their money into, and it's got a bit of predictability. But recurring is actually the best revenue, because there is a value to that. There is massive value. If you've got recurring payments coming into the business on autopilot, we're doing nothing. That's amazing. But you're only going to achieve that in this industry by, like I say, a maintenance service or a recurring plan that someone's on as an ongoing setup in the business. And number 6, a marketing system. If someone coming in to look and buy a business knows that there is a marketing system in place where they can spend more money or do more of what works for that business to get more leads in and more inquiries in, then there is a scalable model there. A marketing system is the one thing that a lot of older businesses, a lot of smaller businesses don't have. They have a ad hoc word of mouth system, which isn't really a system, it's just whatever comes up. They don't really have a repeatable, proven system by marketing channels. So this is where things like your website, search engine optimization, your position in the marketplace, branding on all different social media platforms now is relevant in today's day and age. Marketing systems in the sense of paid advertising that you might do. This is going to be very valuable to a business, and it's often overlooked. But if someone can come in as a prospective buyer and see, okay, well, that system works, that system brings in the best clientele. If we invest an extra £10,000 or £20,000 into that system, that should generate X amount of leads, X amount of inquiries. So we can see a way of scaling the business, which really a buyer is going to want to do that. They're going to want to buy the asset in the sense of the business that you've got, and they're going to want to go, right, how can we grow this business? What's the easiest way of growing this business? And a marketing system is going to be one of the key things that's going to allow that to happen. Number 7, clean financials. Now, everyone in the business, everyone does it. You start the business, the minute you start making some money, you take the money out, you go and treat yourself, you go and buy a car, you go and buy a nice house. You do the nice things you want to as your reward. And you do things in a tax efficient way because that's what you want to do. And that doesn't really help the buyer at the end. So you've got to think, right, long term, if you want to sell maybe the business in the next 5 years, it's going to be a lot beneficial of cleaning up all the financials and increasing that profitability that I said on point 2, because it's going to get you a higher multiple. It's going to be worth more money as a company. If you take loads of money out of the business and the profitability is low, that's going to be a knock-on effect of the end of value of the company. So thinking longer term, you might save a bit of tax today by doing some creative things with your accountant, but if it's really going to impact your profitability of the company and the clean financials of the business, then it might be a lot more beneficial not to do that longer term, because you've got a longer term vision and a plan for the company. And clean financials is going to be the best thing for a buyer. If a buyer sees clean financials, they can see, right, this company's being run like a well-oiled machine. A tight ship is being run here. I can clearly see what's going on. There's no abnormalities. There's no stupid debtors to HMRC or things like that. Things you've missed in terms of maybe corporation tax on payment plans or CIS problems, or just aged debtors and people that owe you money, or people you owe money to that have just been sitting there for a long time. It just sends off warning signs to a prospective buyer. So the cleaner your financials are, and doing things like a monthly P&L, so you've got a P&L up to date and your balance sheet is up to date. And I will do videos on more in depth of a P&L and a balance sheet. But if you've got a really clean business position, and you need both, a profit and loss is what's happened already in a given month, and it shows you transactions in and transactions out of a company and how well each job has done in the business. But the balance sheet is going to be the overall picture, and that is going to have an impact on the value of the company as well. Going, well, because you might have a business that makes a lot of money, but you've got a lot of debt. So that money and that cash flow that's being generated is irrelevant, because there's a lot of bad debts, there's a lot of bad problems, there's a lot of bad mistakes. Maybe there's overdrawn directors' loans. All sorts of things come up, and it's amazing what you see. You know, the amount of businesses I've looked at of buying and buying into. You unpack loads of different things that come up out of the woodwork. So if you know you've got things in the woodwork at the minute, and you've got problems that you've masked over, maybe you've made mistakes, you want to rectify them, pay those off, tidy up the accounts, tidy up the balance sheet, because that is going to be more attractive to a buyer. Then number 8, business maturity. A business that's only been running for a year or so is not very appealing to anyone trying to buy into it. You know, the stats are most businesses fail within the first 5 years. Maturity is actually a value. If a business has been trading for 10 years and it's got steady growth, it's grown over time, it's developed over time, the financials paint that picture as well. That's going to be a lot more attractive to a buyer, because it's got a position in the marketplace, it's got goodwill in the marketplace, it's got a position in the marketplace, it's got relationships. Maturity is a great thing, because things over time, they just go up in value because it's just been there longer. So from a risk point of view, there's a much higher chance it's going to continue to be there longer, as long as it's managed correctly going forward as well. And so maturity is an important thing. So don't be thinking that you can sell a business straight away. The only caveat to that is things like technology. It does happen. People in Silicon Valley, very clever people, they start a business and it's 6 months old and they sell it for stupid money. That's not the reality for day-to-day people like you and me building boring, steady Eddie businesses, business maturity is on your side. So 5 years plus, you're going to get a better valuation because the risk is going to come down. And then lastly, number 9, systems and processes. Again, it links back into what I was saying earlier about buying a headache. If you've got a business that you've built and the problems you've come across, you built a system, you built a process to overcome those problems. So like a system for recruiting people, a system for organizing jobs, a system for accounts, a system for project management, processes for everything in the business. And if you document that, so you have written word on how you do all these systems and processes, you've got technology, and even better, if you've got video of doing processes. This is something I'm currently building out in one of my companies now, is that we basically do a Google document of the process. So it's written with screenshots. You can very easily do this now. Technology has made this very easy that once you do something and you've got a process for it, write that process down. Even better, you can do a screen record, a bit like what I'm doing now, showing someone new when they come into the business, this is how you do this. So every single function of the business, whether it's admin, accounts, project management, site management, whatever part of your company, if you've got a shared drive or a shared folder or a company portal login for systems and processes, that is huge value, because if someone comes in and they bring in a new operator, they can go, how do we do this? And they click, go into it, bang. You don't even need to explain it. There is a lot of value to that. The only thing is, it's very boring to do. It's very time consuming to do, but there is value being built, and it actually makes your life easier running the business. And this is the one thing that's going to help you build the business that runs without you. Point one that I said today is that if you can just employ people and go, right, bang, this is your training, this is the systems and processes, watch this, do it this way, this is how I want things done. That's going to save you so much time as an owner as well. And there's a lot of value into that. So that's 9 key points, guys. There's a loads more to it. Obviously, buying businesses and selling a business, there's a lot of it involved in what needs to happen. But if you can work on those 9 key things, you're going to put yourself in a much more valuable, strong position to be in to maybe sell your company one day. So if you'd like help with your company, there's a link below this video to my free podcast, all things on business, on how to grow it, scale it, build a better team, absolutely everything. But also below that, there is a link to get 30 days of free business mentorship, an email a day, free practical, helpful advice, straight to the point. And it's all there to help you guys out. See you on the next one. Bosh.